So the novel I chose is called In Search of April Raintree. It is by Beatrice Culleton. So a brief synopsis of the novel. It takes place in the 1950s in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The main characters, Cheryl and April, who are sisters, are born from parents who live in poverty and are alcoholics. After the mother gives birth to their youngest sister, Anna, who soon dies at infancy, the girls are separated into a number of foster homes where they experience a lot of discrimination and hardships. So the first theme is the struggle of being proud of your ethnicity. So the girls are both Métis. Being Métis means that you are mixed with American Indian and Euro-American. So April more so struggles with this theme because she is ashamed of what Métis people represent. So basically at this time they represented, they were known as to be unintelligent, to be ugly, and to live in extreme poverty and be alcoholics. So this is definitely something she struggled with accepting in herself. So in this quote, it's basically talking about how April at an early age could see the difference between the white children and herself, the Métis children. And she says, there were two different groups of children that went to the park. One group was the brown-skinned children who looked like Cheryl in most ways. They were dirty looking and dressed in raggedy clothes. I didn't care to play with them at all. So as you can see, self-hatred started at a very young age, and this had a lot to do with segregation and society's idea of what being a Métis was about and being white was about. So a little background story. Her father is mostly Indian and her mother is half Ojibwe and Irish. So her mother had lighter skin and her father had darker skin. Luckily enough for April, she inherited lighter skin, so she was able to disguise herself as being white. She often took that as her advantage and kind of manipulated people, I guess, because she could be seen as a white person, whereas Cheryl was obviously Métis because she inherited darker skin from her father. So how this relates to reality. In 1954, Dr. Kenneth Clark and his wife Mamie Clark created a test that focuses on the stereotypes and self-perception that children have in relation to their own race. So basically a number of similar tests have been created by students in which they produce the same results. So basically a white doll and a black doll is placed in front of different cultures of children, and they are asked questions such as which doll is the pretty doll, which doll is the ugly doll, and basically the results are the same as I said. So yeah.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona?
Lei.
Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più? Quale bambola è nera?
Mi ha offeso. Tu, perché mi hai chiamato nera?
Perché ti offendo?
Mi offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
No, io non ho usato nessuna cattiveria.
Quello sto mi sta guardando storto.
So as you could see in the video, a lot of the children characterized black dolls with the bad characteristics, and obviously these dolls don't have feelings or emotions or actions. They're inanimate objects, so the children are making judgment based on the color of their skin. So this is just another example of society giving darker skinned people a bad name, and that's not necessarily all of our stories. We're all different. Furthermore, you could see in the video that even the darker skinned children were asked, now which doll looks like you? They became very hesitant because maybe they too were ashamed of being darker skinned. So the second theme is overcoming stereotypes. I have a quote here from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She says, "The problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story." I think that this quote holds a lot of truth because basically the stereotypes that people are given often kind of interprets what their future might be, and often people look at you and based on like the color of your skin or your gender or sexual preference, they make stereotypes about you and basically don't look at you in a fresh light and judge the way your future might be. So regardless of preconceived stereotypes, I think people are able to make a story for themselves, and just because you belong to a certain category doesn't mean that that has to be your specific story. As April said before, she did everything in her power to basic Métis stereotypes, and to her this is what being a Métis was all about. She says, "Being a half-breed meant being poor and dirty. It meant being weak and having to drink. It meant being ugly and stupid. It meant living off white people." It's basically because this is what society has told her that Métis are all about, and based off what she has seen, this is also how she sees Métis people. But to her success, she actually beat all of these stereotypes. She went to college and received a good education. She married a rich white man. She got a job as a legal secretary and was able to financially help her sister Cheryl whenever she needed it. So later on in the book, the girls have a vice principal named Miss Semple, and Miss Semple also has an idea of specifically what Métis females are supposed to be like, and she sees the girls kind of going down a rocky road and basically wants to steer them in the right direction and not go down what she calls the native girl syndrome path. So basically what the native girl syndrome path is all about is when you go on your own, you get pregnant right away or you can't find or keep jobs. So you'll start with alcohol and drugs. From there you get to shoplifting and prostitution and in and out of jails. You live with men who abuse you, and it goes on. So again, society is telling Métis females what their life is going to be like, and I think a lot of the girls who were Métis maybe went down this path because there wasn't any strong role models of Métis women who are successful, but April did come out successful, so good on her. So I'm sure a lot of people know the stereotypes that come with a black man. A black man is usually associated with gang violence. They want to become a rapper, NBA player, etc., involved with drugs, and are typically aggressive. And here I have a video of a black teen who basically is walking the streets of his city and the hallways of his school, and as he walks by, people are giving him personal traits that they think he has based on the color of his skin. They don't actually know this boy, they're just labeling him based off the stereotypical things that they've heard about a black teen.
Morning.
Morning.
You're late. You forgot something?
So as you could see in that video, regardless of all the stereotypes that were put on this young teen, he was able to overcome them and receive a really good grade on his test. Especially for in front of a teacher who didn't really believe that he could do it. So how this relates to more reality. This is a picture of Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner is the author of The Pursuit of Happiness. That novel basically reflects his own life story. So him and his son Christopher lived in poverty in the 1980s. His childhood was marked by poverty, domestic violence, alcoholism, sexual abuse, and family literacy. So, as you can see, he in some of the worst possible circumstances, but he was able to overcome them, and today he is an investor, stockbroker, motivational speaker, author, philanthropist, and American entrepreneur. So, clearly he's a very successful man, and he was able to put everything in his past behind him and make a life for him and his son. So, the author's intent. The novel closely mirrored Beatrice Culleton's own story. She basically included a lot of graphic scenes and expanded a lot on the idea of April's self-hatred because she wanted to show the severity of the situation. I think this book should be recommended to a lot of teens because it gives a personal perspective on someone who actually dealt with these hardships, and the book outlines a lot of topics that are still relevant today. A lot of people still deal with self-hatred. A lot of people still deal with discrimination. I deal with discrimination. I also dealt with self-hatred. I don't anymore, but and I think it goes back to what the previous video talked about with darker skinned people. Basically, the idea that society does a poor job of representing all cultures in a light that is as good as the white society. So I enjoyed reading this book. I wish I could read it again, not knowing of the upcoming events, but I do recommend it for a lot of people. Thank you.